Again, for those of you that just joined, this is Brother Mark Tillman, and I want to say thank you for joining this Alpha Town Hall meeting, this fraternal town hall meeting with a discussion and an update in regards to the Flint water crisis. Ever since the news have broken, we have been receiving phone calls, emails, and text messages, and I've been hearing all of you as to what's going on in Flint. So I am actually here in Flint, Michigan, with our brothers from Epsilon Upsilon Lambda, as well as the Michigan District Director, Brother Tau Usman, and we also have a couple of participants on the phone call. We have Brother Jermaine Reese, who is the president of Epsilon Upsilon Lambda chapter, as well as Brother Hank Theory, who's a special participant on this phone call as well. If we can go to the next slide. So, brothers, the agenda for the town hall, we want to keep it to about an hour. I'm just going to provide you with some brief remarks and really how did we get here, so everyone understands the facts on what really occurred and how the Flint situation came to be. Then we will hear from first from the chapter president of Epsilon Upsilon Lambda, Brother Jermaine Reese, and then we will also hear from Brother Adrian Walker, who is a manager of corporate social responsibility for the Diplomat Pharmacy here in Flint, Michigan. And he is working closely and collaboratively with the Red Cross here in Flint as part of his responsibility. And he's going to share with us how he's leveraging that role for additional support initiatives. Then we're also going to hear from Brother Hank Theory. He's going to discuss, provide us some information and some background in regards to the effects of ingesting lead and contaminated water. We know that there's been much conversation around that, and so Brother Theory, who is the assistant professor in the School of Health Professions at the University of Texas, the medical branch, he has also taught in laboratory medicine for 16 years and worked as a medical technologist for 25 years. And Brother Theory is also the chapter president of Gamma Pi Lambda in Galveston, Texas. Then we're going to review the NAACP's 15-point plan. On yesterday or last night here in Flint, the NAACP held a public meeting in which our Brother Cornell Brooks, who is the president and CEO of the NAACP, gave remarks prior to his meeting with Governor Snyder. So we're going to discuss that and review the 15-point plan. And then I will discuss our next steps and closing statements for the town hall. So we're going to move on to slide number 4. And I also want to provide a little bit of housekeeping. If you are on the GoToMeeting via your web browser, you should be able to download under materials the presentation that I will be referring to, and that's online right now. So you are able to download this presentation, and you can share it with brothers in your chapter or with your local social circle. We want to make sure that brothers understand that what we're doing, and so you're able to download the presentation. But how did we get here? How did this Flint crisis bubble up to where now we have Rachel Maddow from MSNBC, who is also here in town this evening? We would have had a couple of other brothers, but due to their responsibilities with the city and with other organizations, they're actually with the Rachel Maddow production that's going on right now. But basically how everything started, roughly 2 years ago, the city of Flint, in a cost-cutting measure, if you will, switched their water system that pumped water from the Detroit River to pump water from the Detroit River to now pumping water from the Flint River. And what was I guess now known to be the case, that is, the water was being pumped through a dated pumping system. That dated pumping system, where the pipes of the water system were at least 40 years old. And that corrosion through that pumping system caused the first signs of trouble, if you will, through odor and discoloration of the water to many of the residences and businesses here in Flint. In fact, one of the larger employers at the time, General Motors, also switched and decided not to utilize the water once it made the switch because it was causing issues with their parts and systems in their cars through the Flint plant here. To try to remedy that problem, the city and the water engineers added chlorine to the water as an attempt to correct the odor problem and the coloration problem. But additional tests showed that there was higher levels of lead that was rising as part of the water and other chemicals that has been determined that being digested over the course of time was directly impacting nursing mothers, infants, or anyone with a compromised immune system. So after that switch, a doctor who started noticing the problem through their medical tests and I guess rising patient levels, started noticing a problem, and through the initial test, this is what was determined. Now, probably one of the first set of questions would be, did anyone know that this was going to be a problem prior to the switch? Well, based on the information, there was insufficient studies and insufficient information that was not provided at the time of the switch. It was not provided to the local residents, until there was an issue that with the water coloration, with the discoloration, with the odors, that's when the problem started to bubble. But there was also a slow response to that issue. And then the city government here in Flint, Michigan, as well as the governor of Michigan, Rick Snyder, and other local officials did not offer a clear plan on why they did not know and how to fix it. So where we are today is that the government, the city government, there have been various press conferences that our city officials are working with to now deal with the problem. It has become national news. It was a slow-moving process until, I believe, Rachel Maddow and some of the national publications started picking up on the issue. And now the NAACP, the local residents organizations, NPHC, and many other organizations have now wrapped around this story. It didn't just happen over the course of the last month or two. This was actually a bubbling situation over the course of the last year. So if it seems like it was a slow-moving flow, it's because that the story did not build up until it started gaining national attention near the end of last year. So that's where we are today and where we are with the Flint crisis, of how we got here. It's been about a 2-year issue, and now there's been calls for investigations and support, and there are immediate needs and there are long-term needs. So what I'm going to do is now we'll move to slide 5. We will provide a given opportunity for our brothers of Epsilon Upsilon Lambda. They are the local chapter along with Theta Tau here in Flint, Michigan. And I'm going to have Brother Jermaine Reese, who is the president of Epsilon Upsilon Lambda, to give his perspective and what the brothers have been doing, not just recently, but through this issue. So, Brother Reese, I'll turn it over to you. And we may have to unmute you first, so I just want to make sure that you are, and then we'll turn it over to you. Brother Reese? Brother Reese, can you hear us?
I think I'm unmuted now. Yes, can you hear me, Brother President?
Yes, I can.
Okay. All right. Greetings, brothers. I first want to take the time to thank Brother President Mark Tillman, also our regional Vice President, Dr. Willis Lanzer, and our Michigan District Director, Brother Tal Uzman, for all their support and their leadership direction throughout this period of time. As Brother President indicated, this is a direct result from politics at its finest. A lot of this stemmed from Governor Snyder and his appointment of emergency financial managers to govern over the city of Flint, and being or allowing them to operate with impunity and no recourse for their actions. Brothers have been calling from I've talked to brothers as far as Miami. So I just want to say to the brotherhood, we appreciate you guys, your concern, your willingness to support and rally your chapters to come and lend and aid in our support efforts here as well. We as a chapter, what we've been doing is because of a lot of the uncertainties, is collecting data or information. We have a couple of key brothers who were supposed to be here, and Brother Brian Larkin, who is the chapter secretary. He also is the director of planning and development for the city of Flint, and also our chair for My Brother's Keeper. He is not here. I'm not taking it. He's one that was not able to be here because of the Rachel Maddow as well. So we have key brothers in places such as he, who are giving us information where a lot of the information hasn't been provided. So initially our goal was to collect enough information so that once the media hype, if you will, dies down and things begin to veer from the national spotlight, we wanted to have a plan in place that could address some of the immediate needs as well as those intermediate and long-term needs. Because we know we're, and I believe one of the other brothers will speak to some of the effects of exposure or ingestation of the lead can have on our children. So just to have an actual plan in place to where we as a chapter and we as a fraternity can aid and lend support to the city of Flint. Another brother who has been instrumental is Brother Isaiah Oliver, who's the Vice President of Community Impact for the Greater Community Foundation of Greater Flint. Some of you have received information. I believe Brother General President sent out the plan of action where it actually gave a website link, that the Greater Flint Area Foundation created this fund or foundation fund to allow people that can't mobilize, that can't come to Flint to aid in the distribution of water. They can donate their money as well to support the efforts. Those that are going to be long-term to aid in the medical and educational support for our community. We've been actively engaged with working with those relief efforts, not to recreate the wheel, but to see how we as brothers and we as a chapter can help alleviate some of the stress and some of the urgency that has arisen from this the great demand. And as you all know, as of today, there has been no definite plan or definite deadline that has been publicized as far as a relief date in sight, as far as the infrastructure. As Brother Tillman indicated, not only was the infrastructure old already, but the chemicals that they use to try to make the water ingestible further corrupted the infrastructure to the water system. So we're talking about having to rebuild an entire water infrastructure for the city that services about 99,000 citizens. So we have some initiatives, and I'll let Brother Adrian Walker, he can give you some of the most current initiatives that we have as far as aiding in some of the relief. Is Brother Adrian there?
Yep, he's with me, and he's about to speak.
Thank you, brother. Thank you, Brother President Tillman, for this opportunity to provide an update in terms of the relief efforts that's going on. So my day-to-day job, working at Epsilon Upsilon Lambda, I've had a chance to interact with the American Red Cross, which is the central agency here locally that has been providing a lot of the relief efforts that have been going on. Essentially, they've been, with the outpour of water that has come in, they've been in charge of the mobile distribution of the water.
President, can we get him closer to the mic?
I'm sorry. I was just saying that the Red Cross has essentially been in charge of the water distribution that has been going out, the water filters that has been going out, and actually the test for the water filters as well. So coming up in February, us as a chapter, including the state, the brothers from around the state, will have an opportunity to be a part of that mobile distribution process. And this upcoming weekend, actually, the brothers will be collaborating with the NPHC on a mobile distribution of water here in the community to the residents that are here locally. So we're continuing to be at the table in terms of the discussions that have been going on around the water efforts and truly seeing when there's an opportunity for us to play a pivotal role.
Brothers, if there is an echo, we apologize. We're currently, we are at my community college, and we're in a conference room, but it's an open air room, so it may be causing some reverberation. So I apologize for any echo that you may be hearing. We're going to try to make it better as best we can. So you just heard from Brother Adrian Walker. And Brother Reese, I'll just turn it back over to you if you have any additional comments or closing comments. As Brother Reese indicated, we would have had a couple additional brothers here, but due to their responsibility, they're actually with the Rachel Maddow show that's being taped here in Flint today. And so they have responsibilities with their duties to be a part of that show and to be a part, or at least to be a support system to what's happening at that production. But I'll just turn it back over to you, Brother Reese, if you have any closing comments and anything that you want brothers to leave away, to have a takeaway from this meeting.
Thank you, Brother President. What I would do is implore brothers, especially those.
Make sure Brother Reese is off of mute.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Brother Reese?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Brother Reese? Hello? Okay, well, we may have lost Brother Reese, but I just want to thank him and Brother Walker for providing a brief update from what our brothers here are doing locally. Those are just a couple of brothers we named, but we have quite a few brothers who are in different fields of professions here in Flint. In fact, at my community college, we have a brother who is a director of workforce development, and so when it comes down to talking about labor and helping the citizens, being a part of the workforce and being a part of the solution to help to possibly help reconstruct some of this infrastructure of the water system, he is directly involved through his role at the as a workforce development professional here at my college. So I want to thank Brother Walker and Brother Reese for providing us with a quick update from the perspective of our brothers on the ground. So we'll move on to Brother Theory, I believe, slide number 6. Brother Theory, with his background, we thought that we wanted brothers to understand the facts around this contamination. We've heard over the news about the city is being poisoned, the children are being poisoned, but we wanted our brothers to share with us what does that really mean, what are really the effects, and to really talk about the short and long-term effects of ingesting some of the chemicals, especially lead, because that's the main chemical that has been identified. What's the impact? Is there anything that we can do as a fraternity or anything that we can supply? So I'm going to turn it over to Brother Theory, and he's going to give us his perspective in regards to that. So, Brother Theory?
Brother General President, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me?
I can hear you, brother.
Who's Brother Theory?
Yes, can you? Okay, I'll go ahead and continue assuming that you can hear me. First, I want to thank Brother General President Mark Tillman and a special. Hello, can you hear me?
Oh, now I can hear you. Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, I first want to thank Brother General President Mark Tillman, and I want to thank our Brother Executive Director, Brother William Douglas Lau, for the organizational skill to put this together. As Brother Tillman said, as our General President stated, lead is basically a heavy metal, and it impacts cellular division of all cells in the body. It has a particular inhibition effect towards the formation of hemoglobin in red blood cells. If any one of you has ever taken a biology course, you learned about mitosis, interphase, metaphase, prophase, anaphase, telophase. When cells divide, the nucleus splits on itself. Well, lead as a heavy metal will impact the building blocks of DNA that will allow for cell division to occur properly. The two main building blocks are folic acid and vitamin B12. And as a result, particularly, there's some particular hematological effects because it breaks down the process of the formation of heme, which is the portion of hemoglobin that carries oxygen. So you have comorbidities happening with this toxin all at the same time. And I'll just talk about it in general, then I'll talk about why children are so vastly and adversely impacted. But when you have lead as a heavy metal, as a toxin, inhibiting the formation of the heme portion, heme is basically an organic compound called a pyrrole ring. And its spatial arrangement in the molecule of hemoglobin allows for oxygen to be incorporated. And what most likely happened with this crisis is someone in a laboratory noticed at a precipitate within the red cell, what we call basophilic stippling, as basically a diagnostic tool for lead poisoning. And it got reported, and they said, why is this happening? It interferes with the transport of oxygen. So what then inspires is what is called a megaloblastic anemia. So these folks have a lack of oxygen to all of their organs, and thus all their organs are affected. Another bad component of lead poisoning as a heavy metal is that any and all rapidly rapidly produced cells are impacted through mitosis. So what you have, the two organs that are most impacted by lead poisoning are renal function, our entire hematologic blood system, red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets, and the brain. The reason why it is a horror and a terror to young people, because as the brain develops, if it is poisoned by lead, the actual neurological response and the developmental portions of the brain are neutered, for lack of a better word. You have listlessness because of the anemia. Young children are not used to not having red cells carry oxygen to their tissues. So you have young people who are fatigued, who suffer what we call listlessness. You have a whole host of clinical symptoms. And although I am not a physician, these types of neurological impacts, synaptic nerve responses, dizziness, confusion, can last for a lifetime. So that's some of the acute effects of lead. When you have lead toxicity in terms of overtime through oral ingestion of poisoned water or toxic water, When you have higher concentrations of lead, the lead then becomes stored in the tissues. And the tissue that most often stores lead is your bone and your skin, and what we call the marginating regions of tissues, so that as the bone develops, as the person grows, particularly a child, as the bone attempts to grow and expand, the ends of the long bone, lead leaches out. So what you have is a continual toxicity, particularly to a growing person. And when I say child, I say someone under the age of 6 who grows into a teenager and adult. Depending on the severity of the toxicity, lead, what we call PB, lead has a half-life of up to 40 years. So the real long-term consequences of lead poisoning are realized at the immediate, at the acute, intermediate, and then the long-term. Mental confusion, low IQ, neurologic problems, fatigue, fatigue, attention deficit, all these mental health things that we now see are directly attributed through known published research as a long-term result of lead toxicity. So those are some of the things. I can say a bunch more, but my concern as it relates to route of administration is, if you remember back in the 70s when lead paint was an issue in homes, in toys, and there was no regulatory method, young children then who ingested lead basically did not have the same frequency, intensity, and duration. They were only exposed to lead if they played with the windowsill. They were only exposed to lead if they played with that red wagon that was painted with lead in the paint. My concern is that the route of administration being the drinking water and the length of over a year, for some say over 20 months, we don't know what we don't know, but there is a stronger possibility that the toxicity levels, particularly for the children of Flint, Michigan, may be at levels that we are not ready to comprehend. I don't want to alarm anyone, but the constant ingestion of toxic water over a length of time may have produced a high degree of toxicity to where the quality of life and morbidity and the long-term effects are something we have yet to see. And for this to occur in children, I'm focused on all adults can handle a lead poisoning because they're grown adults. The rapidly turning over cells would be your bone marrow cells that produce blood. It would be your skin, your hair, but your brain, for the most part, is fully formed. There might be some confusion, irritability, nervousness. There will definitely be anemia because of the bone marrow. But for all of these comorbidities and a high degree of toxicity to occur in children means we may have hundreds, if not thousands, of young people, children, who have been exposed to this very, very toxic heavy metal. And again, I can only speak now as an introduction because we really don't know the degree of toxicity. And one of my concerns for the fraternity is that we get a handle on just how toxic. You hear terms like parts per billion. There are ways to measure lead directly and indirectly. The direct measure involves a potentiometer where you can actually measure the metal in whole blood. There are porphyrins or porphyrinogens, which are the byproduct of heme that can be, if the presence of them shows that lead has a toxic effect, that's an indirect effect. You can measure it both in blood and in urine. And then the observation of the inclusions in red cells, the basophilic stippling that I talked about before, is also an indirect diagnosis of lead. So we need to think in terms of what degree of toxicity have the children of Flint been exposed to as a way to assess the long-term effect. And as it stands right now, we don't know, but the higher the greater lead toxicity, the far greater implications towards quality of life and morbidity. These people are going to live with this for decades. they will suffer this poisoning and the quality of life that goes with it for 20 to 25 to 30 years. And it's a silent killer. It's a silent morbidity type of thing. And I just want the brothers to know my concern. And I want to thank you again, Brother Tillman, for allowing me to speak. There are probably countless other brothers who would say the same thing with the medical background. But my concern, because I see it come up so often in the laboratories here at the University of Texas, children are the most impacted. So I just wanted to put that on the brother's mind, and I just want to say thank you for this opportunity. And I'll turn it back over to you, our Brother General President.
Hey, Brother Tillman?
Yes.
This Brother Reese.
Hey, Brother Reese.
To add to Brother Theory, one of the comments when he said the level of toxicity, I was looking at a report last night, and when he talked about parts per billion, they talked about the level here in Flint was measured at about 13,000 parts per billion. So I'm not sure in level if that's something that, I know that was high. I mean, because it was, they've never seen it this far before. I mean, I think, and I know Brother Theory would be able to speak to that more so, but that was in a report that I saw last night.
Yeah. Yes. If I may, 5 micrograms per 100 milliliters is the equivalent of 5,000 parts per billion. Anything greater than 5 micrograms per deciliter or 5 micrograms per deciliter, again, is the equivalent of 5,000 parts per billion. That is considered toxic to a human being. I read the same report that 13,200 parts per billion is greater than 2.5 times what is considered panic value toxicity for lead. And the fear is, if that was the source of the toxicity, the frequency, the intensity, and duration through a direct oral administration, through oral ingestion of drinking water, people cooked with this, they bathed in it. It may be a horror that I don't want brothers to be numb to. This is a very high level. This is a killer level of lead toxicity that was in that water. That's at a level almost 3 times greater than what is considered hazardous and toxic. If that answered your question.
Yes.
Great. Thank you again, Brother Theory. And Brother Reese, I want to give you an opportunity to make any closing statements. On our end, we were unable to hear you. So if you were talking, we did not hear you. But if you want to say any words to the brothers before we move on, I'll give you the opportunity to.
Thank you, Brother President. For brothers, especially those here in Michigan, well, first off, I want to give you those brothers, I know it was included in the correspondence that the General President, Brother Tillman, sent out, but for those brothers that are a great distance away and you still want to support in the efforts, if you look in that website or the email that Brother Tillman sent out, the www.flintkids.org is a place where you can go and donate money that's going to address those needs that are going to, not likely, but that are going to arise as indicated by Brother Theory based on the exposure levels. Secondly, and lastly, I implore the brothers, especially if they're the brothers in Michigan, those of you, this is a direct attack. In my opinion, as a former city employee in Flint, and seeing the politics at work, we can no longer allow these type of acts to occur in our urban cities that are more than 50% African American. This is a direct result of politics from Lansing, which were given directives by our governor, Rick Snyder. First, and it goes back even further than the 2 years, but to remove or to cripple a city that was already struggling with the removal of General Motors to remove revenue sharing that would push that city into financial receivership, and then open up the door for the governor to appoint his selected emergency financial manager and give him autonomy and complete power that has never been seen or set this. It was unprecedented, and this is a direct result. The gentrification efforts trying to disperse the urban community or the inner city, or especially those neighborhoods that are heavily populated by African Americans. Now, I can't say with 100% certainty that the reason why this water change was to help that, but this would not have happened in the more affluent community. And so I will lead brothers and encourage brothers to aid and contact your Congress people, your congressmen or women, your state representatives, and start blowing up their emails and their phone numbers, and let them know that we will not stand by. Because if Flint, if they can allow this to happen where there's no investigation, and I know they've appointed an investigator, but if politicians can be imprisoned for mismanagement of city finances, then this act is far more atrocious than mishandling financial money. So I would just encourage brothers to reach out to your state representatives, your Congress people, to push and make them hold those that were responsible, hold those people that were responsible for this action occurring, hold them responsible. And I thank you, Brother Tillman, again, for allowing me to have a chance to address the brother.
Okay, great. Thank you, Brother Reese. We can go to the next slide. So, brothers, my slide didn't change, but what I'm about to do, brothers, we're going to go into somewhat of a recap of what occurred last night at the NAACP public meeting. The meeting was moderated by the Detroit NAACP president, Reverend Wendell Anthony, and it was various panelists and speakers before the meeting turned to a pretty much a full hour. It was a 2-hour meeting, but the first hour were more of a speaking, announcements, and then the last full hour were addressing the concerns of the citizens. On my slide, it has not changed yet, so hopefully that is going to change in a second. But on slide 7, there is a list of questions that was provided from the Flint residents directly. It was roughly 200 people in this meeting, and everyone was provided an opportunity to provide questions to the panelists that were there. We've heard from the president and CEO, Brother Cornell Brooks. He is a brother of Alpha. If some of you did not know or realize he was a brother of Alpha, I actually crossed the Jackson State. And he provided a steering speech as to why the NAACP was there, why that they were there to help support. They appreciated the support of everyone that was involved, from the Divine Nine organizations to the local NAACP chapters, National Urban League chapters. Just about anyone and everyone is pretty much involved to help the citizens of Flint. And what was provided, I'm just going to take a pause real quick. Brother Lau, on my screen, it does not show that we're on the next slide. Is there, if you can make sure that it's on the next slide, please do. On yesterday, the citizens were allowed. Right now, it's a situation where everyone is mad, but no one really knows what to do at this point. They're just basically mad, and so there were various questions some were repetitive questions. I was able to narrow down roughly 40 questions into about 22 main questions. And I'm not going to go through each of the questions individually, but I will highlight a few. One of the things that that really came out on yesterday was what are the plans to create a community oversight board. Some of you may have heard, if you been on the web or seen a link through some of the news outlets, that they have appointed a special commission to investigate the issue. But there is a real fear that we're just hiring, or the Governor Snyder is hiring his friends, and so there's a real concern that there should be some community oversight involvement, so that there is transparency and accountability in the process. Because the switch was made, basically there's distrust that's occurring right now. And so that was one of many questions that came up as part of that meeting. Another question that I wanted to highlight is who would pay for the changes in the piping, in the water system. And what came out of that meeting yesterday is that, for one, no one knows the true cost of anything. Right now, there are many appointments being made, but there are no real concrete figures, to my knowledge, and I have Brother Walker shaking his head here, that no concrete figures have been provided in terms of the level of the amount of this change will cost the taxpayers, the state of Michigan, or anyone. And some of the calculations that I'm referring to is the infrastructure of the water pumping system itself, the actual infrastructure system for the city of Flint. That does not include the piping system in homes. And then you have another set of costs that includes the piping system in homes, because some homes are being damaged, some appliances are being damaged. Think of your washing machine, or think of your dishwasher, or just simply your bathtub. Then there are other costs, and I know that Brother Theory was alluding to, were around health care. So what's going to happen to the children who are ingesting the lead now at a young age, or nursing mothers? What's going to happen then as they grow up? Education costs, because we also know that there's going to be some impact to the development of that child. And then one of the big costs that that's been talked about, the mortgage costs. What's going to happen to the property value of some of the homes that are here in this area? So in short, no one knows the answer. So when folks are asking what can happen or what can we do, right now the quantifiable metrics from some of the items that I just mentioned have not really been released, and that's what some of these appointments are made to do and made to provide. So I'm sure we're going to receive more information in regards to that. And I did indicate about the infrastructure is a main topic of discussion. Folks are worrying about the accountability, but they're also worrying about, do they have to pay for that water? Do they have to pay to use dirty water and water that they can't drink from? And I'm going to get into this in some of the subsequent slides, but I do know that there is a fund that has been created, at least to address that issue in whole, whether there's going to be a rebate. But Brother Walker wants to speak to that a little bit more in detail.
I'll just chime in a little bit. The governor was actually here in town in Flint today, did a press conference with the mayor in regards to the whole, just an update on the water situation. And one of the main points that the mayor had brought up was that essentially the residents shouldn't have to pay for water that they can't drink. And essentially right now what's going on at the state level is $28 million has been set aside. The House just unanimously passed the bill, sent it over to the state Senate. I believe they haven't taken action on it yet. The bill is $28 million that is set aside to come to the city of Flint. And of that $28 million, the governor admitted today in the press conference that he is calling for $3 million of that $28 million to go towards residents' water bills. So it still hasn't been determined as to that money will be directly coming to the residents or if it will offset some of the water costs. But just wanted to provide that as an update in terms of the press conference that happened today.
All right, thank you, Brother Walker. Brothers, we are having a little technical issue with moving the slides forward. If you are online directly through the web browser, you are able to download this presentation, so you will see exactly what I'm referring to. I did not state this at the beginning, but this town hall is being recorded, so it will be available once we're done and once we get everything set up. But for right now, those of you that are on the telephone, I'm just going to have to be as descriptive as I can so you can at least follow from what I'm saying. So I'm going to move to the next. So what I'm referring to, I'm going to move now to slide 8. Those, again, just some of the questions that the citizens were answering. There were some answers to many of the questions, but it was very apparent that not everyone had the answers because we did not have structural engineers and civil engineers in the room. So some of the participants unfortunately weren't able to answer some of the questions in any sort of depth and detail. But as I indicated, that there are now commissions and appointments being made to oversee those items. As well as I know there'll be further conversation in making sure that there are community oversight boards so that there is full transparency and full accountability in that process. And the next slide that I'm referring to now is slide 9. This gets in directly to the 15-point plan that the NAACP provided in that meeting. And I should say it was considered a draft plan, but they provided that to the participants and the audience in the meeting on yesterday. So I'm assuming that there may be some changes or some evolution of those priorities, but be that as it may, they provided an initial set of guidelines that the NAACP is following, that they're asking the community to follow. It may involve with some additional priorities. And I had a meeting with the Council of Presidents for the other NPHC organizations on Monday. So they've also received this 15-point priority plan that was provided. And it's basically, there's some guiding principles in the plan. The guiding principles are around equity and justice, self-governance for the citizens to be really engaged and part of the process. I talked about the oversight committee. I'm also talking about future measures where there may be measures that may be brought up to a vote to make sure that we're involved in that. A feeling of inclusiveness, because this problem, from what I was able to observe on yesterday, that not everyone was inclusive of that process. And so the plan is also including that level of inclusiveness moving forward. And then also transparency and accountability. Are you really telling us the truth? Are you really telling the citizens of Flint the truth of what's occurring and how you're going about it? And then the accountability level, not just from moving forward and how we're going to correct this situation, but also what happened in the past and who's going to be held responsible for the decisions that were made, who's going to be held responsible for the lead poisoning. So there are many different avenues and mindsets that are occurring, but they've been kind of encapsulated into these cross-cutting guiding principles that has been provided by the NAACP. And so what we've done from that initial information, we have the commission, on racial justice, who is now chaired by brothers Gregory Vincent and brother Greg Johnson. Brother Vincent is out of Texas. Brother Johnson is out of California. And we also have Brother Axius, who is also the chair of the Commission on Public Policy. They received these plans. They are actually reviewing these plans with their committee to help provide a direction for Alpha Phi Alpha in response to these plans. Now, I will say that all of these plans we are agreeing to. I mean, it's a very comprehensive plan. We know that it's not all inclusive of everything that could be going on, but we're definitely in support, and we're also supporting our Brother Brooks. I've had a brief conversation with him on last night, just prior to him leaving to meet with Governor Rick Snyder. And so he knows that Alpha Phi Alpha is fully on board with him, and he has our support. And he was very appreciative that he had the opportunity to see his general president in the audience supporting what we're trying to do here in Flint. But this 15-point priority plan, I'm going to highlight some of the items where there are some commentary, but again, it is not all inclusive in terms of Alpha's response, but the priority and the statements come directly from the NAACP. It's not in any particular order of priority or importance. What it is a list which starts off with the emergency financial manager must be repealed. We agree with that, and I'm sure we're going to be working with our brothers here locally, especially our brothers here in city government, to see how we can assist with that and what can happen and how we can galvanize the community in ensuring that the emergency financial manager position is dissolved, and supporting the local mayor, Karen Weaver, who is the local mayor here in the city of Flint. So we are in agreement with that, but we know that there are further steps that we're going to have to take. The next priority is the water distribution by the National Guard must be replaced by local youth labor. One of the main commentary in yesterday's meeting was how will the citizens of Flint benefit from this crisis? Basically, how will they be able to take hold of their future? And so one of the commentary around supporting the youth and the citizens is at these water distribution centers and some other centers that are going to be in support of the citizens, that this is an opportunity to engage the youth into some constructive work to help their community and to help their city. So we're definitely in agreement with that, and want to support that through the Alpha Esquires program that's here locally, through the schools that are here locally, and I'm sure we'll be working with Brother Atao Usman that the youth of the city will be a part of the rebuilding of Flint through this crisis. The third priority is access to fresh fruits and vegetables must be accessible for all residents. Michigan is proud of its heritage of having fresh produce and homegrown produce here in the state, and we're definitely in agreement of that and institutionalizing that access. And so again, we will be working with the local farmers and grocers here in the state, and especially here in the city of Flint. We want to make sure that there's information available on how citizens can gain that access so that they're able to at least combat some of the effects of that lead poisoning, especially the young children, by eating certain types of foods, and we'll be working with the health community here in Flint. The fourth priority is that all citizens must be provided free home inspections. Again, we agree with that. How we're going about that, how even the city of Flint is going about that is still unknown at this time. So we know that, again, there's a cost associated with it. There will be some studies associated with that. So once we have more information, then we'll be able to direct how we can support the free home inspections. All Flint residents must be provided federal funded replacement of damaged systems or appliances. Again, the corrosion, the water flowing through the systems. There is an update that was known today. The update is that our Democratic senators are preparing to unveil some legislation as early as tomorrow to aid in the funding for Flint. So we don't know the details of that, but we do know that that there is some plan in the works. I wish we had some more information to provide, but we want to make sure that whatever plan is provided, that it helps the citizens through those funding mechanisms to help with the damage to their households, because if they have bad piping, they're going to have home values, and so we want to make sure that we're able to assist there. Fairness, justice must be examined in rate hikes and continued billing for poisonous water. I do have an update on that as well, that Governor Snyder is requesting $3 million in supplemental state funds for water bills. One of the main concerns, do I have to pay for dirty water? An answer could not be provided at that moment on yesterday, but one of the things that has been discussed is that they'll be working with their sewage and their local sewage and water board commission to ensure that if they don't pay for free water, they at least get some sort of a rebate or some sort of a discount. But that is a much complicated issue than what we're able to provide. But that update has been provided, and we know that it's going to be more than $3 million. So we just have to wait on an update for that. The next point is the city of Flint must have a new state-of-the-art water distribution system. Again, there is an update on that. That Governor Snyder has appointed a 17-member committee with term limits, and that they will recommend recommend ways to help people who are exposed to the lead. They're going to also provide a study of the Flint's water infrastructure and determine possible upgrades. Again, no one knows the big picture. They don't know how big this breadbasket really is. But one of the concerns is that this is being appointed by Governor Snyder. So again, as part of the previous points that I made, that we want to make sure that there is a community-based oversight system to oversee this member committee to ensure that the citizens know what they need to know and how to move forward. And we'll be working again with our local brothers in government and key areas to ensure that that occurs. Pro bono legal advice must be available to all. And there's another update that Governor Snyder wants to work through the Medicaid social health care program to help the citizens of Flint, the children of Flint. And then another update that a coalition of Flint residents and national groups did file a lawsuit asking for the federal court in Detroit to compel Flint and state officials to basically replace the pipes at no cost to residents. So I'm sure as part of the previous point, once we know how big the situation is, we want to make sure that the citizens of Flint understand what their rights are. And I'm going to talk about that a little bit in terms of, I'm sure we have many Alpha brothers who would be willing to do some pro bono work to help with that area. So I'm going to talk about that in the next steps. Investigate responsibility for the crisis and impose accountability measures. The Michigan Attorney General, Bill Schuette, has named a special prosecutor and investigator to look into possible crimes in this crisis. Again, that is another step in the process, but we also want to make sure that there's community involvement, that they at least know and see the transparency in that process. So again, further information will be available on that. In regards to the equitable redevelopment must include anti-displacement measures, and jobs, contracts, and other economic benefits must go to local residents. On that first point, this has been somewhat dubbed as Michigan's Katrina, Flint's Katrina, and if many of you being from a New Orleans native, many of our citizens were displaced, but many of our citizens did not reap some of the benefits. And so one of the things that, when there's a crisis, there are lessons learned from previous crisis. So one of the lessons learned is to ensure that if something has to be declared with a resident's home, that there's no uprootment, if that's a word, of the citizens and of those homeowners to another location, and that they have responsibility in helping rebuild their city. And then as far as the jobs, contracts, and other economic benefits, when there's crisis, we know that there are vultures. I don't have a better way of saying that. And there are those who are going to create GoFundMe accounts. They're going to say that they are representing something, but they're not in any official capacity. So as the infrastructure feasibility is being reviewed, we know that there's a possibility for new contracts, and not just from new contracts from those who are here locally, but those who are going to come outside the state or outside the city. But there's been a discussion about having clauses as a part of those contracts to make sure a certain percentage, if not all of it, goes back into the city of Flint. So more conversation will be around that as well. Small business owners and prospective workers must have access to capacity building. Again, I indicated that we have a brother who works here at Mich Community College. He is a director of their work study program, and so he's going to be well integrated in making sure that there are trade levels that this crisis is going to bring some opportunity. And so he's going to be involved in that. His name is Brother Robert Matthews. The next point is the multidisciplinary study must be conducted to assess the impacts and needs related to the crisis. Again, Governor Snyder appointed a group, the same group of the government officials, to look at the health and other experts to implement the long-term fixes in this water situation. This is a generational issue, and the answers are just not going to come in 30 minutes or even in a week. Some of the answers probably won't be realized until 5, 10, maybe even 15 years later. But it's a good first step, but we also want to make sure that there's transparency and accountability in that process. All academic reports arising from the water crisis must be available to Flint residents. Again, we don't know the impact to the children who have been born during this crisis until years later, but we want to make sure that there is transparency in that process. And I believe this is the last point. Yes, point number 15, a Flint-wide environmental assessment must occur to determine and address other risks. Again, Governor Snyder has appointed a top advisor and Flint native, his name is Richard Baird, to oversee a team focused on improving the city's quality of life. But as I indicated earlier, there is a distrust factor that's occurring, and so we want to make sure that whoever is being appointed and whoever is in charge to oversee, what they're going to be overseeing as well in this whole process. So again, this I may have overstated quite a few times, but this community-based oversight committee will be very important, and it's going to involve all of us. It's not going to be one organization versus another organization. It's going to take the entire Flint community to be involved in this process. So those are the 15-point priorities that were developed by the NAACP and Alpha's response to it. We have some responses documented in there, but again, a more thorough review is being provided by our Commission on Racial Justice and our Commission on Public Policy to see what else needs to be there, to see what else can be added or updated. So all I can say is stay tuned in regards to that, but it will be a part of our next steps on how Alpha Phi Alpha can be involved and how we're going to make sure that this process is not going to go away when the cameras go away. So what I'm going to do now is actually move into the next steps and what we are doing as of right now. So give me a moment and I'll go into that in a second. Okay, so as part of the next steps, I just shared the 15-point priority plan. Brother Cornell Brooks and I were scheduled to have a call earlier today. I do know that he's traveling, and I also wanted to indicate that due to some commitments, he couldn't be a part of this call, but he was invited to be a part of this call this evening, but he was unable to make it. But he and I are going to touch base to talk a little bit more in detail what specific help that Alpha and, quite frankly, all of the Divine Nine can do to help him. And so there will be a follow-up conversation with him. And again, I will provide that update when available. And so, but do know that I'm working directly with him in this process. We want Alpha Brothers to continue to support the donations of water and monetary contributions. And again, Brother Reese indicated in the town hall message, it is under the section, what is needed in the short term. So if you have that email, brothers, that is what's needed in the short term. If you want to donate water, we provide you with 3 different ways to donate water, and they're going to official distribution systems. There are plenty of distribution centers here in Flint, but these are the main government provided, Red Cross, American Red Cross. These are the ones that we want you to donate to. If you got the hookup and you know somebody that's part of another distribution center and you want to give to that, just make sure that you know that it's going to go to where the need is going to go to. So the reason that we provided that in that email is to let you know we know where those donations and contributions are going to go to. And Brother Reese also indicated that if you want to make a monetary contribution, to go to www.flintkids.org and make your monetary donation, but also let us know that your donation came from a member of Alpha Phi Alpha. And as part of that registration process, there will be a prompt where you can enter Alpha Phi Alpha. So when there's a report, we can actually provide quantitative measurements that Alpha Phi Alpha donated this much money, and we know where that money is going to. So brothers, I will also say this, Alpha Phi Alpha does not set up GoFundMe accounts. So let me repeat, Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity will not set up a GoFundMe account. So if you're getting GoFundMe accounts from different areas, buyer beware. So we will either communicate a link that will come directly to Alpha Phi Alpha, or a link that will go directly to the source who's going to receive the direct benefit. Everything else that's being created is not under the umbrella of Alpha Phi Alpha. Buyers beware. And again, for water donations, it's listed on how water donations can be provided. I can tell you that individual bottles of water will not be accepted. It's only going to be accepted if it's part of a case or a large shipment. There's also some guidelines of what will not be accepted, such as canned water, containers of open or broken seals, carbonated water, flavored water, or water past its expiration date. So brothers, understand that if you're going to make the donation of water, check those boxes. Don't send the strawberry flavored water. They just want pure water. Simple, and that's it. So again, the information has been provided. I believe that same information is also on our website. Many of you are on social media. Make sure that information is provided to the brothers out there in the social media world. It's posted on our Facebook site, Twitter sites. Communicated. That's what brothers can do now in order to help this situation. I've already indicated that the Commission on Public Policy and Racial Justice are reviewing the plan. We may develop an additional plan to supplement what's already been provided, but the recommendations will come at a later date. This takes time. It's not a quick and dirty process. So allow us to investigate it and allow us to provide you with some better information. Sign up for pro bono work. Brothers, we're going to be at a later date. I don't have a timetable yet, But we have been receiving requests on what can we do. Brother Tillman, what can I do? And I talked about it earlier about the questions that the citizens of Flint has in regards to this issue. Well, one of the things that we're going to be asking you to do is to sign up for pro bono work or free work, such as if you are in the legal profession. We're going to have a lot of people that's going to try to sue somebody. So there may be a need for some legal assistance. If you are a healthcare professional in the various forms of healthcare professionals, it's a very big industry. We can utilize your help. We can utilize your intellect on what can be provided, what can be shared, working in conjunction with the Red Cross and the other officials that are providing this. There's no shortage of people indicating that they want to help, but we want to make sure that if you want to help, come to us with the skills necessary to help. Insurance. We have many brothers who are insurance agents. We have many brothers who know the ins and outs of the insurance company. So if you can lend your expertise in that area, we want to know. We want to put you on that list to say, we have some residents that have questions, but they're not getting the right answers. Well, we may be able to provide some answers because they're talking to folks who are directly involved with insurance companies and could provide that type of information and insight. And brothers, this was just a short link, just a short list, but an immediate list: legal, health, insurance. Yes, we know that there's going to be some educational issues that need to be addressed. There's no shortage of the intellect of the men of Alpha Phi Alpha can't provide. Think of it as you are the global policy council. We're going to need your intellect to help us provide maybe a quick fact check book or a quick fact check website or something that we can provide to help the citizens here in Flint, but also develop some collateral to help where you are. Because one of the things that I did not mention in my list of next steps that's documented is Flint could be your backyard. And so what you're building is actually collateral that can help you in your backyard. Alpha Phi Alpha has chapters in over 400 cities around the globe. And many of those cities have a large concentration of black folk and poor folk. So we want to make sure that we're developing collateral that can not only deal with the immediate crisis of Flint, but also deal with the next crisis that will inevitably come to us. Do know that your brothers in Michigan, in the city of Flint, in the Midwestern region, we've been having direct, almost daily contact for a while now in discussing this issue and discussing this process. I also want to give a shout out to Brother Dr. Willis Lonzer, the Midwestern Regional Vice President, who has also been engaged in working closely with the brothers of Epsilon Upsilon Lambda and Theta Tau. Brothers, this issue is huge, and I cannot underestimate that this issue is huge, and we're not going to have all of the answers, and the answers won't come in a week or in 24 hours. But do know and understand that we have boots on the ground here in the great state of Michigan, the Great Lakes state. And so understand that that's why we have chapters charted here to help our communities where we are. So if you're in Houston, if you are in Baltimore, if you are in Los Angeles, California, you are Alpha and you are supporting that community. You are our boots on the ground. And yes, whenever there's a need and we need to know something, yes, let us know. You can email me. I think the brothers in the fraternity has my email address, president@APA1906. But we want you to send your questions or comments or ideas to communications@APA1906.net. And we will take that information, we utilize that information, and then whatever the outcome and the product is from that information will be a part of another program or collateral that we will provide to our communities, that we will provide to you so that you can help your community where you are. So my brothers, this is a big issue. I was slating this call to be for about an hour, but I know we're about 20 minutes over, but it is a big issue. It was necessary to provide you with the information and what's been happening, to try to give you the breadth and the depth of what's occurring. No one has all of the answers. No one has all of the answers right now. And so I know that there have been some members who are looking for answers and looking for it in a quick fashion. Brothers, I do not have the answers. Alpha does not have the answers. The city of Flint does not have the answers. And trust me, the Michigan government does not have all of the answers. But we're going to act accordingly, and we're going to act in a uniform manner. So everything that's happening right now, I'm here in Flint, Michigan. I was in Flint, Michigan on yesterday. Brothers are with Rachel Maddow, and brothers are engaged in this situation. And we will communicate. When there is something that you need to know, we will communicate it. It does us no good in holding on to the information. So please understand that we are working as fast and as hard as best we can, and with the information that's available as best we can. We're not going to provide you with incomplete information or uninformed information, and we will check our sources. So we sometimes just don't go with the first source. We check it against multiple different disciplines, multiple different sides. So that's the type of work that's going on, and we will also work with our Divine Nine partners, our civil rights partners. We're working with everyone to ensure that this crisis does not become another crisis somewhere else. But in hindsight is always 2020. We're going to learn from mistakes, and that's what we're doing. We're learning from this. We've taken what we've learned from previous crises to what we're doing today to help better prepare you as a member of this organization, us as an organization, and the brothers and the citizens that are here local in Flint. So my brothers, that does conclude the town hall meeting. I know that there have been probably questions because I've been looking directly at a screen, but not necessarily at the questions and commentary that may have been provided, but it is being recorded. We will try to answer that as best we can. Hopefully I may have answered some of it through the course of this presentation, but brothers, do know that we will provide you with the recording so that you can share it with your brothers. Again, post it in your social media circles to let brothers know that something is happening. It may not be happening fast enough, but something is happening. And again, we're going to always advocate for our communities. We're providing service to our communities. And I do again want to thank the brothers of Epsilon Upsilon Lambda, Theta Tau, our local college chapter of University of Michigan Flint, and my college, as well as Brother Tal Uzman, who is with me here in Flint in the conference room at my college. I want to thank Brother Jermaine Reese. Thank you, Brother Walker, Agent Walker, and all of the brothers who are involved. And thank you, brothers, who are out there. Right now, we're down to about 47, but we were as high as 50, and I know that there are some folks on a phone call. I want to thank you for your concern of what's happening here. If you already made a donation, thank you. If you've already provided water, thank you. We still need more. We know where it's going, and we appreciate what you're doing. So, brothers, Alpha is doing something because each and every one of you individually is doing something, and I want to say thank you to that, and I appreciate you for doing that. So with that, brothers, this does conclude the town hall for today. Thank you for taking the time out, and as soon as we know further information, it will be made available. So again, my brothers, thank you, and have a great evening. Good night.